Hi, my name is Kannan. I'm currently studying at IIM Ahmedabad. I'm in my second year. I did my internship with McKinsey and Company. So today I'll walk you through the chapter number 2. The key is the keyword. Here we'll talk about how keywords are largely very important while designing your CV. So what would we talk about in this particular module? First thing is we'll talk about ATS, which is the electronic gatekeeper for an employer. This is an electronic gatekeeper which helps employers in shortlisting the CVs. Second thing we'll talk about here is the game of keywords. Best way to optimize keywords, where should we use it, how to use it, and how to have a better impact using the keywords. Third is the formatting, which is largely very important when anybody is actually viewing your CV. Formatting is first thing which comes into the account. And the fourth and the last one is the STAR method, which is situation, task, activity, and result. This method would help you define in how to actually structure your sentences while telling the employer about your work. Moving on, the first thing is ATS, Electronic Gatekeeper for an Employer. So what does the ATS do? It collects, sorts, scans for keywords and ranks the applicants. The system removes the least qualified profiles, but it does not identify the best ones. So what will happen essentially is, say 100 people have applied for a particular job. What ATS would do is, it would collect and sort and scan for keywords out of those 100 profiles, and then tell the employer that only 75% of these are rejected, while 25% is something you can consider for further shortlisting. So these 25% of the CVs would be taken care by humans and would be seen by them, and further shortlisting would be done basis their parameters. So it basically means the 75% chunk of the particular CVs which are not shortlisted by the ATS are badly written and badly formatted resumes, and hence they get rejected and do not go any further. So the first thing we should keep in mind is, the first step is to clear the ATS round for any application process. Coming to my second point, which is the game of keywords, best way to optimize. So first thing I have here is, do not use any proactive or self-starter words like these, or full sentences for that matter. So you should be very careful about the words you're actually using in your CV. Keywords represent soft and hard skills and the expertise you have acquired relevant to the target job. So you should make sure that you're not overkilling using your keywords. You should make sure that keywords are representing the soft and the hard skills, and how is it relevant to your target job which you're aiming for. Again, the next important thing is, you should read the job description of a particular company very carefully, and you should try and pick up the keywords from that job description, and make sure that you are using those keywords which are repeated in the job description in your CV as well, to make sure that the person who's going to screen your CV gets that particular keywords in your CV as well, and hence the chances of you getting shortlisted for that particular job increases. So essentially there are two types of screening. First is to determine the strength of skills based on the frequency of appearance of a keyword. Say for example that you've led a particular team. So when you repeat that particular leadership quality multiple times, say 4 or 5 times during the CV, it is thought of you, it makes out that you have the strength, that you are a leader, that you have been a leader throughout. So make sure that whatever your key strengths are, you're repeating it throughout the CV in some shape or form or the other. The second thing is that placement of keyword on resume, that is upper half, means more important terms. So what I mean by that is, you should make sure that all the relevant content you have, all the competences you have, all the good work you've done, all the highlighted things you want to highlight to a particular employer should be in the first half of a particular CV. So let's say we divide your CV in 4 quadrants. The first quadrant and the second quadrant is something you should have all your good content in. Largely, you should make sure that in the first quadrant, everything you want to talk about, the impact you have created in different jobs, the different leadership you wanted to talk about to the employer, are in the first quadrant itself, so that if somebody gives you say 1 minute, he or she is able to go through all the important stuff you have on your CV. Along with that, it is very important to create a core competency section. So what will you have in this particular section? All the core competencies that you have and things related to them. So that when somebody is going through your CV, this is the first section somebody goes through, and this should be repeated on and on in your work ex and in your education sections as well, so that it is established in the person who's reading your CV's mind that you are actually really great in this particular competency, and make sure that this competency is in line with the job description as well, so that you can get multiple benefits out of creating that core competency section. Now we're coming to the most important thing, which is formatting, which is largely ignored by most of the people. The first point I have here is that avoid images, avoid charts, and avoid graphics. You should not have images in your CV. One, the ATS system would not accept any of these things. It would not accept any image, any chart, or any graphic. It would directly go into the 75% dump we talked about earlier. So make sure that you're not using any image. Second, these also occupy a lot of space in your CV. So if you have, say, image of yourself or any chart or any graphic, this would mean lesser text. And this is something you don't want. So make sure that you're not using any of it. And third point is avoid stylish bullet point for the same reason. Keep it very simple. Normal circular bullet points is something you should use so as to make it very readable for somebody who's going through your CV. Clear the clutter. Keep a clean format. Don't try to make intricate columns and designs. So as I've told you a couple of times, the observer or the person who's reading your CV just has 1 or 2 minute maximum to read your CV. So make sure it's very clean, it's very formatted, and all the columns and rows are in place where they should be. There should not be any extra element which they're observing in your CV. And you should make things simpler for the person who's actually observing your CV or reading your CV or has to make any decision regarding shortlisting or not shortlisting you. So make sure that you're making that person's life very easy. You should clearly segment all your sections. So largely what I've observed in multiple CVs I've seen of myself in IMA or my friends as well, that they clearly make multiple sections. The first one is largely for education, wherein you talk about whatever education you have, the percentage marks you got in that particular education. Then comes the work ex, where you talk about which company you worked in, what kind of tasks you have done, what kind of impact you created in that particular work ex. Then comes the projects, extracurriculars, PORs. All of these sections should be divided and clearly formatted. So the person who is seeing it should be clearly able to observe different sections in your CV and hence can go to a particular section where he wants to analyze you on. Within every section, data should be in a chronological order. That is, for example, you have worked with 2 companies. One in the last 1 year and the other one in, let's say, 2018 to 2019. So make sure the recent company should come first. For example, the company you worked with in 2019 to 2020 should come first and then the other one. Always have a recent company first as compared to the other ones. Last and the most important thing, which most of the people generally forget or do not care about, is that you should have your contact information where it should be, either in the header or in the footer, and it should be readable. So what normally people do is they make the font size of the contact information really small, and hence it is not very readable to a particular person who's reading your CV. But you should also understand is that the contact information is the first thing that anybody would need if he or she wants to make a call of contacting you and sending you a confirmation or appoint or schedule any interview. So you should make sure that you should have the contact information in a readable form. It can be either in the header or in the footer, but it should be readable by the person who's actually checking out your CV. Moving on, we talked about STAR method, which is largely situation, task, activity, result. This is actually a powerful way of demonstrating abilities and their practical use in the workplace. So what I mean by that is, say you want to talk about a particular point. So how should you do it? First thing you should do is you should write the situation. That is, describe your previous role and position where you worked at, what was your role, where were you a manager, an analyst, or a consultant. Whatever your role was, you should directly define it. This is called situation, and this should be your first step. Second is the task. Describe a task in the past which required the skill mentioned in the JDs. For example, let's say you led a team of 4 or for particular analysis, you should mention that particular task if leadership is something you want to highlight. What actions did you do? What actions did you do to make sure that the task was completed? What was your role in that, in particularly in making sure that the deliverable was delivered? Then the last and the most important thing is the result. And this is something most of the B schools or any other companies focus on. We get that you did particular actions, you had a particular role, but what was the result? What was the impact of you doing that? So result should be made sure that you have a lot of numbers. So let's say that you worked on an optimization problem. So you should make sure that you're writing that how much optimization you did, or what was the impact on the top line or bottom line for a particular company when you worked on particular project. So make sure you're adding a lot of numbers in the result, because it eventually means that you actually created a significant impact while delivering your result, and it is a very important point while you're giving your work-ex related data. This entire thing would help you in showcasing your actual contribution more accurately to the recruiter,